what do we mean by f of x? What do we mean by a function of x equals to y? Or what do we mean by some sort of algebra functions like x plus 2 equals to y? Or 2x minus 1 divided by 2 all multiplied by x squared equals to y? What do we mean by these? What do we mean even by function of x in philosophy equals to y? What does that mean? Consider having a graph that looks like this. Straight line is increasing rapidly. We have some sort of x values. You know that this is our x values and this is our y values. And for each x value, we have a specific y value. Okay, now I want you to consider x equals 1, and here our y value equals to 4. So how can it make sense that a value of 1 gives us a value of 4? How can we make sense of it? Yes, by having a function of x. A function of x means some set of operations has happened to x that gives us the exact same y value we want that is shown on a graph. For example, in the function, in the set of operations we choose must be the same for each x values. And when it's the same, it must give us the exact y value that is being shown on a graph. So by a function of x equals to y, we mean we're going to do some set of operations on the x which gives us our exact y value that is shown on a graph. Some examples, some good examples are here. For example, x plus 2 equals to y. What do we mean by that? So here plus 2 is our function, is the operation that's happened to x that gives us a certain value of y. Our operation here is only addition. So for any x value here, for example, here, for any sort of x value here you choose, when you add it to 2, you do the addition of 2 on it, it's going to give you the exact y value you want. Isn't it interesting? For example, here, some other complicated operations has happened to our x value in order to give us our specific y value. Alright? So it's all about making sense of what we're saying. For example, consider you have a 1, and now in your 1 you have a value of 3. Your 1 goes to a machine that looks like this and gives you the value of 3. Or consider number 2 and consider number 3 and so on. Your number 2 goes on the exact same machine and it gives you the number 5. Your number 3 goes on the exact same machine and it gives you the number 7 out. Isn't that weird? How does it make sense that a value of 1 gives you a value of 3? How can you make sense of it? By considering that some sort of operations here happens to our 1 value that gives us a 3 value. So what is the operations? In this case, it's pretty simple. It's been multiplied by 2 and been added to 1. Okay? Our 2 goes on that exact same machine, so it also has been multiplied by 2 and add 1 to it. 3 the same, as it's obvious. So here we can make sense of how our 1 value, how our 2 value, how our 3 value gives us the value of 3, 5, and 7. Now it totally makes sense to us. Now I want you to consider this our x values and consider these as our y values. Now it simply makes more sense for you. Say a value of x, a value an x value of 1 gives you a y value of 3. How is that possible? We have a function that in that machine has happened to our x value and gives us that specific y value. Isn't that pretty cool? Now you just made sense of how is it possible to get a value of 3 out of a value of 1. Function of f, function of x, which we refer to as f of x, is equal to our y value. Our x value is 1. Alright. By f of x, by function of x, we mean the set of operations that has happened to that one value that gives us the 3 value. The operations and the functions is multiplying by 2 and adding 1, which is equals to 3. Now let's do it. This is our x value, has been multiplied by 2 and been added to 1, and it's been given our y value. And since it's the same for every machine, and we have several x values, we write it as any x value we have in that goes in that sort of machine is being multiplied by 2 and being added to 1 and gives us the exact y value that we're going to get. This is what do we mean by f of x equals to y, and this is what do we mean by algebra.